Okay, so I've got a test bar in the lathe between the centres and a DTI on the test bar, and I'm going to move the carriage along the bed. Just make sure that the centres are truly aligned and there's no movement on the DTI there. There's always a risk that while you're doing this, the DTI isn't actually touching the test bar, so it's always a good plan just to move that around, and clearly the DTI moves each side as I move the cross slide forwards and backwards, so that is in contact with the test bar. The sample taper, the existing MT1 centre, is held between two centres, female centre at this end, male centre at this end. I've taken the chuck off the lathe, and so it's easier to get the centres in. I just remove the handle from this. As I wind the compound across, I've got the DTI in contact with the taper, so as I wind the compound across, it's reading that the compound is set parallel to the taper, and let's just check that by backing the DTI off to make sure it was actually in contact, and a stationary reading wasn't, just because there was nothing touching. I've reversed the direction of the compound so that I haven't got a problem with clearance with the handle here. Obviously I'm going to have to watch my hands because they are going to be near the chuck at this end. So now I've got the workpiece mounted in smallest 3-jaw chuck that I've got, so I've got plenty of clearance at this end. Supported centre, a bit of oil on that to stop it getting too hot. If you've got a rotating centre with a small enough body, then obviously that'd be better, but it gets pretty tight in there. Topslide set over, matched the taper I'm trying to copy. What I'm going to do now is just turn a little reference at this end, take it to the smallest diameter for the taper that I'm after, so that I know the diameter without having to measure it, so that'd be a small shoulder there, and for the MT1 taper that's 0.369 of an inch. So I've turned down the first part of the taper, roughed it down to its only a small distance off its finished size. I'm now going to move the top slide across to the left and rough out this part. I've got some marks on here which show me where the final gauge diameter is for the top end of the taper, and also the limit of travel before I start fouling the top slide on bits of the headstock, so I know how close I'm getting to the headstock there. It's just to help me sort of organise stuff. But this is the key mark, this one that's a bit to the right, that marks the end of the gauge, and so that's the end mark that I'm aiming for turning the taper. Right, the taper's been rough turned in both halves now, and you can see there's a bit of a mark where the two halves were. I don't know if you can see this. This is cut on the with one setting of the saddle, and this one was cut with the other setting. The reference mark for the end of the turning has been turned away, and I've turned up to the reference mark where I put on there to indicate that it was as far as I could move any of the slides before I started interfering with the headstock. What I'm going to do now is finish turn this first section, get that to size, and then mark it with blue, shift the saddle to the other end, to the headstock end of the lathe, and then just pick up on the marked area by taking the tool in until it just begins to remove the blue from that area, and then the two sections should be lined up. So now I've marked up with blue the area, the finished area of the first part of the taper. I'll now go in and just touch on that until it just indicates that the tool's got contact, and then I'll move up onto this section. I've shifted the saddle a little way, there's clearance down there now, you can just see it's moved. It only had to be moved a small distance to give me the coverage, but it's the principle that's the issue here. So now you can see where I've actually done the cut. There's the dark blue in this area, very pale blue there where I've just literally skimmed, just been in contact with it and taken the tiniest amount of blue off, and I've finished off down the length of the rest of the taper. The only thing now to do is move the tailstock out of the way and test it. So tailstock's backed off now. I've got a Morse taper sleeve I'm just going to slip on there to test, and there's no rattle on that. The ultimate test is to, oh, it's ringed. Okay. The ultimate test is to put some marking blue down there, slide it on. Any high points will get wiped off. If nothing gets wiped off, then there's contact all the way around. The blue just gets smeared around. I'll try that. Now the work's been blued, and I'll just put the test socket on there. Just twist it around a bit so it wipes over, and I don't know if the light lets you see that, but there's no high spots been wiped off at all on that, so the taper's the same all the way down, and it picked up without any problems. I really hope this comes out. Looking in the viewfinder of the camera, everything looks very metal coloured and not terribly blue, but hopefully you can see the difference between the unblued bit and the blue.